Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. As promised, special guest Adam Nelson of Hoop Dirt today, folks. We got him on the line. Perfect, Pete. Beautiful transition here. Welcome back, everybody. I was looking through the analogs of some of the different shows that we've done. Pete, 30923 was our first show. 3923. So we're just over the 3-year mark of doing this. Unbelievable.
I remember you want to start it right in time for the tournaments. That's when we did it.
Yeah, right before the start of that tournament back in 23. It was great. Adam is a repeat guest of ours, so we're excited, elated, and super pumped to have him back in the zone with us. Adam, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Coach Sutter. Thank you for having me back. Fired up to be here, and what an awesome day, right? First day of the tournament. Can't wait to watch some games.
I don't think we could have timed this up any better. All right, so as I promised, we have our own Final Four. I have Duke, I have Florida, I have Arkansas, and I have Michigan. My one surprise is Arkansas. How's yours shape up?
Coach, we agree on one.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna agree with you on Michigan. I love Michigan. I love the way they play. I think they're number one in defensive efficiency in the country right now. And Dusty May's a heck of a coach. So I'm gonna give you Michigan. And on that side as well, I'll give you kind of one more layup. I really like Arizona there. I mean, the job Tommy Lloyd's done there, Jaden Bradley, Braden Burries, they're so good. So and when you talk to a lot of people, and I've done a bunch of these radio shows over the last couple of days, everyone's talking about the chalk in this tournament and picking all the number ones. And, you're the first guy I've heard that hasn't picked like multiple number ones. This is great. But that side of the bracket, Arizona and Michigan, I got to give the number ones. But I will tell you, the other side is the side I really like, and the other side is, I think, where my national champion comes from. And I will tell you, I believe I have UConn in my Final Four, and I believe UConn's going to be the national champion.
Wow. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
You know what? I absolutely love the way UConn plays. They've got older guys, right? Caravan and Terrace Reed and guys that have been through this. Caravan's the all-time winningest player in the program. And really, a Dan Hurley-led team is not going to lose. They're going to punch you in the throat and just win games. So I absolutely love UConn. I think they got to get by Duke to get there. They will. But that's kind of my national champion right there. And the other part of the bracket, so that lower part of the bracket is really confusing to me. There's so many good teams in there. Florida's the number one. I think you said you had Florida in your Final Four. Yeah. Houston's in that side. I think Houston's really good. Illinois is really good. But my prediction right here, I think Vanderbilt's coming out of this side.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what? Because I think there's so many good teams. I think they're going to beat up on each other. There's a chance for Florida and Vanderbilt to meet in the Sweet 16. Vanderbilt already knocked Florida off in the SEC tournament. I just think that there's too many good teams on that side for someone, one or two to come out. And I think, the job Mark Byington's done there. They run like a pro style offense. When they get hot, they shoot it. This is a team that started out 16-0 this year. I mean, they've got a lot of really good pieces. So that's my kind of surprise Final Four pick.
We have a phrase on the show that we use, buying Byington, because we're really big fans of his. Watched him at James Madison, now doing great stuff at Vanderbilt. And what Pete and I have alluded to on the show is right now you're only as big as your bag, and Vanderbilt came with some good considerations for him in the hiring process and said, we're going to really, really give you the resources that you need to compete at that level. And so I think that's been a good conglomeration there, a good collaboration there with the athletics department being ready for the changes that were to come and getting a coach in there that was ready to accept those changes, those challenges, and move forward. I like it, though. I like when you have a little bit of action in that Final Four, that makes it look good. That's what it's all about. It's that March Madness. I'm really, really, I was doing this with my wife the other night because she has a pool in her thing, and she says, you better not make me look bad here. And I'm like, look, honey, I'm the worst person in the world for this. Have you seen my pools from the previous years? I mean, they went down in flames, And so she's lighting me up about Arkansas and says, get Arkansas out of there. No way. I want Arizona. So I can't even get agreement in my own house, Adam. But that's really, really cool. And that's what we love about this time. That's what we love about this time. One of the great great things that Hoop Dirt does is they're on the job cycle, in the job cycle, as well as anybody in the business right now. And that's saying quite a bit because there's quite a few people out there that are really doing a good job with this. But Adam, you're our first class. I don't go a day without at least 3 or 4 clicks on Hoop Dirt. I'll go onto the women's side as well. For anybody who's interested, it's Hoop Dirt on the women's side with a W in front of the H. Also another great site as well. What do you think are maybe the 3 or 4 best jobs that are currently open right now?
Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. We've been doing this for a long time and try to do it the right way, try to be respectful. And I've coached for a long time, coached against you. I don't think I ever beat you. But we just try to be respectful and do it the right way. But there's a couple really good jobs open right now. In my mind, I think Providence, could be the best one. I just think they're going to pour some resources in there. Their AD came out and said publicly, like, they need someone who understands, the culture right now, like, what you got to do with NIL and the portal or free agency, whatever you want to call it. So I think they're going to have the infrastructure to really build that thing. So I think that's a really good job, and I think there's some pretty good guys involved. Syracuse is an interesting one. Obviously they ran Red Autry out of there. And I think it can be a really good job, but then you hear people saying that Red never had the funding or whatever he needed to get it done. So, I don't know. And I don't know what's true or what's not, but then you hear someone like, Brian Hodgson from USF kind of turning that thing down and maybe being interested in Providence. So maybe Providence is a better job. I don't know. But I think those are 2 of the big ones. Obviously Georgia Tech's still open. And I think has the ability to be a good job. And then, finally, as Boston College is open, and I'm a Boston College alum, and I was with the program there. As much as I would like that to be a big time program, I just kind of fear the direction they're heading is, we'll be back talking about the Eagles in 3 or 4 years again here.
I think that job is a sleeping giant, the Boston College job. I really, really do. In the right hands with the right person, that job could be a really, really good job because you've got a better recruiting base in and around Boston than you've ever had before. And you have the ACC, and I get it with the football and everything, but if you're an entrepreneurial head coach that wants to go out and hustle and really wants to go out and raise money, I think that's a job for you. Or if you come, we're talking about this now where people are almost buying jobs now, because they have that resource. But that's kind of where things are trending right now. And if you're one of those schools that has trouble putting money together, it's not imprudent to bring in somebody who has the ability to do that.
So, yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. And that's the way that a lot of schools are doing that. My concerns with Boston College right now is I don't think, operationally they get it. They haven't increased their operational budget. If they want to be successful, they have to commit to hiring a general manager because that's the trend and that's what everybody's doing. It's this NBA model: hire a GM, hire the analytics guys. You have to do it, and I don't know if they've committed to that yet. And again, if you look at the names that they've talked to, I think all really good coaches, but not a lot of local ties. And I think that's the one thing that really doomed Earl Grant. And I got to know Earl, and I think he's a really good guy. He just never embraced recruiting New England. He just wanted to go get guys, and it's not about that, especially at Boston College. You could struggle like Earl, but if you have local guys, it's going to help you. It's going to help get people in the seats. I mean, some of those crowds they had this year were embarrassing. So you have to commit to recruiting the New England preps, recruiting, mass, and really getting out there and, like you said, pounding the pavement. But in this day and age, it's not enough for just the head coach to do that. You need that help from a general manager. You need that financial commitment from the college. And just, again, looking at the names that they've talked to, I mean, I think all really good coaches just, we can be back here in 3 or 4 years if they don't make this commitment.
The one name that I've heard, I've got a lot of history with the family, is Jay Larinaga. We've heard that name there, and then some other guys who've been in the college business as well, too. That'd be interesting to see how that shakes out. I think it's very, very difficult to have somebody go into one of those jobs. We talked about Red Autry. I coached against Red Autry. That's how old I am. When he was in high school, played for Tallentine. They beat us for the city championship in my second year there, and then in my first year there, we beat them for the semifinals and wound up winning the city championship against Mashburn and Cardinal Hayes. So I love Red and love everything that he's about. But how are some of these power schools getting caught short to the dollar when they used to have the resources, prior to the NIL? They were, very well resourced. So I don't understand, how some of these schools that had been in that operation before, they were NIL before NIL almost, some of these schools, how are they late to this whole thing? And that's what's concerning to me about Syracuse. I can see some of the Catholic schools being late to it. Georgetown. I can see some of those, Providence, some of those schools being a little bit late to it. But a school like Syracuse, I have a hard time seeing why they were late. Maybe it's the drastic change that's going on in their administration right now with the chancellor, the AD, now a new basketball coach. Just a lot of movement there, And I think it's, they're going to, obviously Red is the guy that's being held up on that standard. But, if you got turned down by Hodgson, that speaks too. That speaks volumes too.
Yeah, no, it does. And I think you hit the nail right on the head there. Like, why are some of these schools kind of getting left behind? And Syracuse, like I said, is a good example. I mean, an AD that's been there for a long time, who is now, gone. They hired a new AD, and that's maybe that's the trend, bringing these kind of younger guys who have kind of come up with this over the last few years and understand the landscape a little better. But it is challenging. But to be honest, like even from my experience with Boston College a little bit, I've been at a couple like donor dinners and even 18 months ago, 12 months ago, guys weren't understanding the difference. Like, oh, if I donate to the Flynn Fund, doesn't that help? No. There's NIL fund. This is totally different. It's explaining it to people at a place like Boston College who might not have the heavy hitters that understand it, like trying to explain the difference and like what NIL means and where these funds need to go and what needs to happen with them. So it's totally different landscape, and it's absolutely nuts. Free agency, paying guys, all this, NBA influence that's come in. So it's, if you're not kind of on point, you're gonna fall behind, like you said, as Syracuse did, as BC probably did. But I'll tell you what, I'll give Providence's AD credit. He spoke yesterday with like kind of the 5 things he needs from a new guy, and it was really, understanding this landscape was the main one, like being able to understand this landscape and come in and win.
The scope of a college basketball coach's job has changed.
Yes. Yep.
They have to press the flesh now. They've got to go out and raise money. They've got to be in the foundation and development area of the university, where prior to that, that's why there's so much of this consternation, is because they had never really been involved in that before.
Right. Well, Coach Sutter, I agree with you 1,000%. And this is why, people have kind of, gotten on me for this a little bit, but I've been saying that left and right, like, especially at Boston College. And again, great guys they've talked to. But for them to be successful, they needed to go make a splash. They needed to go track down Eddie Cooley, Bruce Pearl. I know he's controversial, but it's a big, big ego, big personality. Even a Fran McCaffrey, big personality. Go get someone who's going to like push for change, who's going to push the administration for change, who's going to get out there and be like, really good with the alums and the money people, like to influence and giving them money. Some of these guys they've talked to are like they said, good coaches, but like, I don't know, if I'm a donor and one of these guys, I don't know. I think they're missing the boat.
I have several good friends that are board members at these different universities, and the way that they kind of, illuminated what was happening at least what they saw was happening on their campus was, originally, people were like, "What? We're going to start paying players?" And it was just such a shock to the system. And then to bring people who had donated to the university all along, they were in the brown and white fund, or they were in the blue and green, whatever that might have been, those ancillary little build outs that each college has had for years. Now they were actively, all competing almost against each other internally. And then you have what I consider, the intra-league violence that's going on in this whole thing, where if you took the A10 and watched the top of the A10, there's teams up there well stocked in NIL, and then there's teams at the bottom that are absolutely starting from scratch every single year over. So it's crazy. What do you think is going to be the total? I thought this was going to be complete mayhem this year. It hasn't really gone that way for a number of different reasons that we've talked about here. But what do you think is going to be the total number when this whole carousel stops spinning?
It's a great question, and you're right. It's a weird cycle now where, guys get fired quicker. And I think we've talked about this before, right? Like in the old days, your season would end, guy would get fired, AD would take time, go to the Final Four, interview guys. Like with the portal and everything going on now, it doesn't happen like that, right? So guys
Right.
get iced pretty quickly after the season. So I think we kind of saw the first wave of that, like of guys just getting fired for performance, not winning. We're at about 30 Division I changes right now. But I think the next wave will start coming, and a bunch of those have been filled. But I think the next wave starts coming, especially when this tournament starts to end, when current head coaches start to get hired to fill some of these jobs.
Right.
So that's going to open another 10, 12, 15 jobs. So I think, typically the average Division I openings is about 58 per off season. I do think we'll be below that. We'll probably be 52, 55. It won't be too much below it. But like I said, I think we're going to see a lot of movement once guys, again, like when Sienna loses, where's Jerry Mack going? He's going somewhere. South Florida, Brian Hodson's going somewhere. So I think some of these jobs will start opening. And again, it's domino effect because maybe then a smaller college, head coach gets Sienna or gets South Florida. So I think, the next wave is coming. But it's one of those interesting questions I've been talking about a lot when I go on some of these shows, like what really is the impact of NIL in the portal for coaching changes, right? And there's a couple ways to look at it. The win now mentality is there. Like, you can go get guys right away and pay them. So you have to win now, right? So understandable. So guys are saying, well, 2-3 years, you don't get it done, we're going to fire you. But there's a huge financial implication to that. So now not only are you spending all this money for, your roster, for operational expenses, and now you have a monster buyout. And I think that some of those buyouts right now that are in place are really kind of preventing schools from making moves right now because they have to raise so much money otherwise. So I think that's kind of jammed this thing up a little bit. I mean, there's some guys, like especially if you read Hoop Dirt, like every other day, we're like, oh, so-and-so safe, so-and-so safe, so-and-so safe. But it's because they've got a year or two left. And I don't think, I think the buyouts are too big. So I'm curious to see how that's going to change kind of going forward with the length of contracts. Like 10 years ago, you take a high major job, you get a 5-year deal, because you need time to get your guys in there and get them through the cycle. Now, I mean, guys are getting 4-year deals, but are we going to start seeing 3-year deals? Because it's not the same. You're not trying to bring a class of freshmen through their senior year. You've got a couple of recruiting cycles to win games.
Do you see an easing up maybe of the buyouts for coaches? Like I'm an existing coach at a school. There's a buyout for me to go to my next school when I get to move on for Hodgson or any of these guys that are on the middle level right now. There's a big, significant buyout on that level as well, too. So the schools are incurring, 3 different hits really at one time.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And I think that's all the stuff that's got to get figured out, right? Right. All the different buyouts. And again, where is, I think the overarching question though, is like, where are we going with NIL? Eventually, is there going to be a salary cap? And maybe that changes. Maybe that helps everything. I say a lot, like there's no concrete answers right now. Like everything's still in flux. Like what you're doing this year may be totally different next year and totally different the year after that because nobody knows where this thing is going. Like I said, I mean, I think salary cap's a great idea. Absolutely pay guys, but let's go with a salary cap. And I think then that kind of changes things, and then maybe kind of refocus some of the buyout numbers, and you can have a little more clarity on the money you're spending.
I agree. What about the emergence of search firms? They really have jumped into the forefront here, and now even D2s, and you see some D3 schools that are employing search firms. Why don't you walk our fans through that a little bit?
Yeah, well, what, the search firms, they're important now because of, again, the way that the landscape has changed. Like I said earlier, in the old days, you'd move on from a guy and you'd kind of take your time. You'd go through your Rolodex, you'd meet guys, you'd go to the Final Four, you'd talk to guys, you bring them onto campus. You don't have that time anymore. Like you get rid of a guy. I mean, some guys are getting, hired within, you know, 24, 48 hours. Like you got to move quickly. And that's where the search firms come in play. Like the search firms have their stables, they have the information on guys. They have the complete backgrounds. So schools know what they're getting. But they also know like, and especially with like all this FOIA information, like, you can FOIA an AD and get his stuff, but these search firms can work with coaches and know exactly what amount of money they'll take, what it's going to take to get them, if they'll actually say yes when offered. So the search firm definitely provides a buffer between the athletic department, and the coaches. So I think they do provide a lot of value. And Coach Sutter, I say this all the time. Nobody will ever say talk to me. I don't talk to anybody, but I talk to a lot of search firm guys. I mean, they're out there and they're active and they're pounding the pavement to get information on guys.
Yeah, they work.
But
They work.
they do. They
That's a
do.
tough job.
And to be honest, I might not have said this a couple years ago, but I do think they really provide a valuable service for schools. I mean, these schools pay an exorbitant fee for some of these. I mean, some of it's outrageous, but they do because you're getting a lot of information that it would have taken you a long time to get, and especially where these searches need to move so fast. You're going to get guys that have been vetted, guys that will accept a job if offered. Some stuff that can maybe be said between the search firm and the candidate. So I think it's a good thing, and for those guys in the search firm business, more power to them. They're making some pretty good money.
Yeah, but with all of the parameters that are there now, I mean, it's there's triangulation with the search firm, right? They can go out and kind of have those conversations that coaches under contract can't have, and so it does ease the skid a little bit because now you are able to say, okay, their bag is $8 million for NIL. Your coaches package for your assistant coaches and yourself is $4 million. You can have those conversations laid out and then go through the coaches that are available in that context and say, he won't take it. He'll take it. He won't take it. Yeah, you might want to stay away from him, but this guy's, so they can go through that. I get that. I'm going to run you through a couple of jobs right now, and we're going to give it an A through an F as far as the job. What we're considering is the bag, their tradition, and the ability to quickly, as you alluded to, you got to quickly move forward now. You got to win. You got to win right away. So with those three things in context, how good a job is the Arizona State job?
I believe that is A minus. I think that's a really good job. I think a lot of people give Bobby Hurley a hard time. I mean, he hasn't won there, didn't win there. I think it can be a really good job. I think they have the money. I think they have the resources. I think they're committed to doing it. I mean, look what they did on the women's side.
Yeah.
They've killed it on the women's side. They brought in Molly Miller, gave her some money.
She's fabulous.
Anthony, yeah, she's amazing, right?
She's fabulous.
But,
Fabulous.
I think, I believe, and actually, I believe Arizona State is all in on basketball, on men's basketball. So I think that's a job that you want to take. I mean, some of the names coming out of there, I think are a little crazy. Byron Scott was involved, and some other guys. But I think they'll make the right hire, and I do think it's a really good job.
I'm in on that A minus. Boston College, the alma mater.
It's a tough one. It really is. I mean, as structured right now, I mean, it's a C or a C minus. I mean, it can be a career killer. Look at the guys that have come through there. Jim Christian, Earl Grant. I mean, where are you going to you get paid for 4 or 5 years at an ACC salary, make a couple million. I just, again, I just don't think that they're going to put the operational money into it. I don't think they're going to be committed to hiring a GM. I don't, I think they're, like I said, they're going to hire a good coach who can be good enough. I just don't think they're there in reality. And I mean, it's hard. The ACC is such a good league. Boston's a pro sports town. You're up against it anyway. Like, you go to all these towns that you go to, Duke and North Carolina. I mean, that's the show in town.
Yeah.
Even a Wake Forest. There's nothing else going on. But I just think I don't think the way this job is structured, it's a good job right now.
How about Georgia Tech?
Similar.
My guy Kenny Anderson.
Yeah, that's right. New York City guy, right?
Yeah. Marbury. We had some great ones there.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it can be a great job. Same thing, a little bit of a pro sports town, maybe not as much as Boston because they're down south. I'll give them a B. I want to give him a B because I think you can be successful there. I mean, I think they have the things in place. It's one of the things where, hiring Damon Stoudemire was a lot of these former NBA guys have not had a lot of success. Look at Penny Hardaway, look at Jerry Stackhouse. So maybe not the right fit.
Juwan Howard, Patrick Ewing.
Right, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Go down the list. So, but if you look at maybe the top guy right now is the guy from Troy, Scott Cross, who's playing in this tournament. There's a legit guy who's won everywhere he's been. So I think if you go get a true basketball guy who I think they'll be supported there, they'll be pretty good. Give him a B.
I think if you climb up to the Power 4, Power 5 conference and you have never, ever been a head coach before, you're at a decided disadvantage. You're at a huge disadvantage against all the great, great ones. All right, we're up against the 12:30 hard stop here with Adam. I'm going to ask you one more question, Adam. Do you see any possible retirements coming from some of the greats that are in the game right now?
Yep, I do. And I think the number one guy that probably everybody talks about is Bill Self. I just think, he's battled some health issues the last couple of years, especially this year. He's missed a bunch of games. They've been so in the tournament. And it's kind of like the same thing that a lot of these guys, Jim Larinaga, Jimmy Boeheim, Coach K, Roy Williams, you get to a point, Jay Wright, this new day and age, it's not the same for them. And it's not the same for Bill Self. I just, to me, I think once this tournament ends, that's the one guy to really keep an eye on, is Bill Self retiring. And I don't think it would surprise anybody. In fact, I was on a show last night out of Dallas, and one of the hosts is a big time Kansas guy. And kind of we're talking about the same thing, like, has this new era kind of passed him over? And then not in a negative way. I mean, it happens. You've been in this game for so long, maybe it's time. And I especially with the health concerns, I think he's a guy to keep an eye on in a couple of days here, maybe.
Adam, always a pleasure to have you in the zone, brother. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to honor that 12:30 stop. We left you 1 minute, brother. Have a great, great season, and we'll see you very, very soon, my friend.
Coach Sutter, thank you as always for having me on. I appreciate it. It was great to catch up with you.
Will you be at the Final Four?
We'll see. Are you going?
Yeah, Pete and I are both going.
I love it.
We're taking In the Zone on the road.
That's big time. I like it.
Yeah, we're going to have fun.
I will connect with you.
We're going to have fun with it. We'll keep an eye out, brother. Thank you so much. Stay well.
All right, take care.
Tough to do that in a half hour, Pete.
Hey, yeah, there's too
Tough
much
to
to
do
cover,
that in
man.
a half hour. Yeah. A couple of games last night that were the play-in games. We've had 2 rounds of it. There were four games, 8 teams. So I got blown out on the SMU Miami of Ohio. Pete, I think, is riding Miami of Ohio a little harder than I am.
Yes, I am.
And SMU,
I have a little faith.
SMU played them last night. Miami of Ohio played very, very well. Game was never in doubt. They pushed it out and did a really, really good job with it.
By the way, did you see what Miami of Ohio does to try to distract the other team from free throws?
Did you see the swim team?
Yes, I did.
Unbelievable. They're going to take over
awesome.
the tournament with that.
That was awesome.
They're absolutely going to take over the tournament with that. It's unbelievable.
That was completely
Keep an eye
awesome.
on the LIU fans as well, because they're the Sharks. They come out and they got a whole Shark thing going there as well. And Texas NC State was a really, really good game. What I'm excited about to match up with that is Texas now goes to play BYU. And that's A.J. DeMonsa matched up with Dalen Swain, who's really, really good player from Texas. So that's a really, really good matchup as well. Howard took UMBC. Really good. Congratulations out to my old workmate Rod Balanis. Kenny Blakeney doing great stuff out there. And Lehigh lost to Prairie View A&M. So that'll close out your games that were there as the play-in games. This today gets us off the charts, ready to go. Maybe, just maybe, Pete will look in on something and see if there's anything happening. But for right now, let's jump into our Power 15 of the NBA, Pete. We're going to keep that rolling, and we're going to keep the playoff action rolling for you. And we also have Super 25 today, so there's a lot to get through in this half hour. Really, really great job with Adam. I love having him on. He's just a wealth of
He's great.
information, and he knows. He holds back. Believe me, he's holding back on some of the stuff that he knows because he just can't break it right now. He's on the very, very cusp of all this information. Great guy to have on. OKC Thunder recalibrating 54-15. At one time they were 24-1. But if you add up that against that, 54 against 15, you are at 69 games, folks. That leaves you 13 games in the regular season. That's the number I want you to think about when we go through our playoff scenarios. San Antonio Spurs 51-18. They grabbed Detroit in the number 2 spot and pulled them right under. Spurs are playing good basketball right now. They're a good bit behind OKC for that number 1 spot, so you're not really going to get too much action there, I don't think, over the course of 13 games, but it could happen. It could happen. Detroit Pistons 49-19. It's all but sealed up, Pete. They have a pretty decent lead on the Celtics, who are in the number 2 spot. And that's going to be the surprise of the year, that the Detroit Pistons will be the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference, given where they were in the 23 season. Absolutely unbelievable. What a rebuild. What a recalibration. And they did it with a lot of the guys that they had. They weren't out there on the market. They weren't tanking. They were just doing it the old-fashioned way, trying to make some good deals and get their team stronger. They also have Cade Cunningham, who's one of the best young players in the game right now. Boston Celtics, Tatum's back. And I love what Mazzella's doing with this team. He brought him back. That's seamless.
You were worried about it.
I was worried, and I've been worried about them all year, and I don't know why. I got to just trust Mazzulla now. I got to give him his due, man. The guy has really done a great job with this. Very even-tempered with the team, very well calibrated, and when Tatum came back, man, I saw that ball moving around nicely on the perimeter. Everybody sharing it, and Jason kind of coming in with I want to say it's a B role. You know, if he was an actor, it's Jaylen Brown's team. And for him to come back in and really make this whole thing work, they weren't going to have a fight about that with 13 games left. You had to go with Brown all the way downtown, and they got now Tatum playing that secondary role, and he's doing great with it. He's assisting, playing good defense. I think the Celtics have a shot. Get ready, Boston. They got a shot. Those playoff tickets are going to be valuable. New York Knicks 45-25. We're loving this team right now. They're moving it. Them and the Lakers are moving the ball really, really well. Getting up and down the floor, doing good stuff, and playing basketball at the right time of the year to get hot. That's all that matters. If you had a 15-game win streak in December, it doesn't matter right now. What matters right now is who's hot. You know who proved that last year? The Indiana Pacers. Came out of nowhere, went all the way to the final. We'll have to look for that team this year to see if they're out there. LA Lakers, 43-25. They are hot as a pistol right now. 6 in a row. Moving it, grooving it. They've got Luka. They've got LeBron. They've got some other pieces there. This could be an interesting matchup to see who they draw in that first round. So we'll take an eye on that. But right now they're playing good basketball. To have them in the 6th spot overall in the NBA, I think they're doing okay, especially with some of the ancient Mariners they got on that team right now defensively. LA Lakers, 43-25. The Houston Rockets, 41-26, doing a good job, but right there, they've been there almost the whole time. A little bit higher in the 5, maybe the 6th spot, but they've been in this spot almost all year. Can Kevin Durant get it going for one more deep playoff run? That's the byline. That's your storyline. Can Durant move in as a veteran, the wily veteran, and come in and take this team and push them further and further than they have been in the playoffs so far? Cleveland Cavaliers, Harden gets back, they're going to be all right. But right now, that finger, it's the finger, Pete, and it's going to be a problem. We're going to see if they can get them back. 42-27. Denver Nuggets, they kind of grabbed themselves, Pete. They were a falling knife 2 weeks ago. They were just coming right off the table, and somebody had to grab that knife, and you better believe it was the Joker. All right, Minnesota Timberwolves, 42-27 as well. Right there. They've been there the whole time. I want to see this team elevate. I want to see this team move. They are a team that can get hot in the playoffs and go. Anthony Edwards is very, very similar to Jimmy Butler, where he can carry a load and make it really difficult for another team in the playoffs just by himself. Toronto Raptors 38-29, really solid year for them, and it's been a big surprise to me as well. But that's consistency of lineup. That's a consistency of lineup operation. They've kept their guys together for a couple of years now, and they've worked them into becoming a little bit more veteran, a little bit more seasoned, but they got some really good players on that team. Scotty Barnes, one of my favorite players in the entire NBA. Phoenix Suns, 39-30. They're living off of just, borrowed time, if you ask me. This team is not built well for a playoff run.
Right?
They're doing all right, but they just have a lot of injuries. And if Devin Booker can't play, they're going to be toast. They're going to be toast. Orlando Magic, 38-30, and they're doing good stuff. Miami Heat, 38-31. And Pete, I think we got a typo up there that I left up there. Atlanta Hawks are 37-31 in the last spot. They moved up and took that 15th spot. So you got Orlando and Miami doing the Battle of Florida, and there it is, 37-31. Nope, we had it right. Okay. Not bad, Pete. Not bad. We are going to give you the playoff lowdown right now because we're moving and grooving here. We want to get through our Super 25 on the hoop side of the NCAA as well. So here's your Eastern Conference top 6 right now. You have the Pistons in the number 1 spot. The Celtics remain 4 games behind the Pistons to see if they could come number 1. The Knicks are 5 games behind the Pistons. Cavaliers 7.5. Raptors in the 5 spot are 10.5. And the Magic come in the 6th spot, 11 games off the lead that is set by the Pistons. Okay? The Thunder have the lead over in the West. They're in the 1 spot. The Spurs behind them, only 3 games. Doable, but not the way that OKC has been recalibrated and playing right now. The Lakers, huge jump off here. You go from 2, and they're 3 behind. You go into the 3 spot. The Lakers are 10.5 games behind the lead OKC. No shot. No shot at catching them. The Rockets, 12 off. Nuggets, 12 off. And the Timberwolves in the 6th spot, also 12 games off. Now we head to the middle, where you're going to get your 7 and 10 games from. A little solid there, but there is room for movement here. This is what we're talking about. The Magic are at 11 in the 6th spot. The Heat are at 11.5 in the 7th spot. So what they're trying to do is jump out of the 7 into the 6. What you want to make sure, if you're Magic, you don't get bounced out of 6 and then into 7, because then you got to play in that play-in playoff game. All right? And so now you got the Heat. The Hawks are 12, so they're only 1 game behind. The 76ers are 12-5. 12-5 behind. So they're 1.5 games behind. So there's a lot of teams that have the Magic in their sights. The Hornets are 14.5 behind of an 11-game stretch. That's 3.5 games. I don't know if they can catch them, but they're in there. So any one of those teams, the Heat, the Hawks, 76ers, or Hornets, could catch the Magic. That's the storyline, the baseline that the NBA is going to be looking at, because you're not going to get it from the bottom up. We're going to talk about that in 1 second. West, the middle, 7 through 10. Here's where you're going to see a little bit differential over on the West, where you have the Suns are at 15 games off the lead of OKC. That puts them 3 games out of the 6th spot, because the Timberwolves are holding on to that spot at 12. They're 12 games off the lead. Okay, the Clippers now jump to 19-5. That 7.5 game difference between them and the 6th spot, and that's not going to happen. Not in 13 games left. You got the Warriors in there. They're 20 games out, 20.5 games out, and the Blazers in the 10th spot. They are 21 games beyond the pale. Okay? They're also 9 games off of the 6th spot. No shot. Now, can you get some action there with the Clippers, Warriors, and Blazers, mixing it up to see who comes in 8, 9, and 10? Absolutely. You might see some action happen there. The Suns look pretty solid where they are. The Suns look pretty solid where they are. So now we go to the OOP crew, and we've got OOP for real, Pete. Now, what I mean by that, all right, let's walk through it. The Bucks are 21 games out. The Hornets are 14-5. So you're 6.5 games behind. With 13 to go, your chances of getting in the playoffs are slim. The Bulls, 21, same story. 6.5 off the lead of the Hornets, who are in the 10th spot. Very, very little chance you're catching them with this little time left. But now you get to the real OOPs, the Nets. eliminated 32 games off the lead. The Wizards eliminated 33 games off the lead.
Wow.
The Pacers eliminated 34.5 games off the lead in a season that's been 68 games, 69 games. Unbelievable. That's just from where the Pacers were and to where they are right now is just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely mind-boggling.
How do you fall that
to
fast?
Me. You just went down. I mean, it's Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, but
That's
my
true,
God, you went from all the way to the top to the bottom. What a year. Grizzlies, they're 30 games out, and they're in the 11 spot. So you got the Blazers at 21, holding on to the 10. The Grizzlies are at 30. They're 9 games behind that. They're not getting in. They're not getting in. Okay, the Pelicans, not eliminated yet, but 31 back. That puts them 10 back of the Blazers. You're not getting in. You're not getting in. They haven't put the E up on you yet, but you're not getting in. Mavericks, Jazz, and Kings, 13, 14, and 15 have all been eliminated. 31, 33-5, 36-5. It's a mess, Pete. It's a mess. But that's where you're at. That's where you're at. It's shaping. It's shaping. The cream is rising. All right, Pete, let's hit into our Super 25 here. We've got a top 5 going that we changed up a little bit, but not too much. We've got our DMA guys right up top there. Duke, Michigan, and Arizona. Really, really good year for all of those 3 teams. Any one of those coaches could be the National Coach of the Year. There are players on any one of those teams that could be considered for Wooden Award winner, National Player of the Year. No doubt about it. Duke, Boozer, Shire, there's your combo right there. What an amazing go in the zone. We have them number 1 going all the way. We've got Duke to win it all this year. We have them playing Michigan, who's in our 2 spot, and 31-3. You know, really, really good year for them. Torvik has Duke 1. Torvik has Michigan 2. And they both got number 1 seeds. Arizona, 32-3. They came out Torvik 3rd and also took a number 1 seed. Gonzaga, this is where I differed significantly from the group. I have Gonzaga at 30-3. Bart Torvik has them at 11. I have them at 4. And also, they were given a 3rd seed in the NCAA tournament. So if you look at the seeds, if you're a number 1 seed, there's 4 of them, though. Right? If you're a number 2 seed, there's 4 of those as well.
Yep.
So by the time you get to a 3 seed, you're looking at either they're 8, 9, 10, or 11.
Right.
Right? Of
Yeah,
all
sure,
the total teams that are in there. You know, I see them a little higher than that. I have them 4th. They have them in the 8, 9, 10, 11 range, more in the 10, 11 range. I think that's too low. Florida, 26-7. Bart Torvik has them 4. And they also got a number 1 seed by virtue of being the regular season SEC winner. But Arkansas came on and took that SEC tournament. That didn't seem to move Florida that much. They had been on 6 losses for a long time. That 7th loss came in the tournament, and it didn't seem to move them that much. Houston, 28-6. They're 5 by Bart Torvik, and they're a 2 seed in the tournament. I got Virginia 29-5. This is one of the biggest disparities that I saw. Torvik has them at 14, but the tournament had them as a 3 seed, which puts them somewhere between 8 and 11, which I think is a little bit more accurate. I have them at 7. Connecticut 29-5. Adam Nelson pulling that one out, Pete. Huh?
I know. I was gonna bust your chops about that one. Like he's got him beating Duke, and you say that's not going to happen, but I don't know.
It could happen. Anything can happen.
know.
He also has Vanderbilt. I thought that was a very, very precocious pick.
Yeah, he didn't think the UConn one was as edgy as the Vanderbilt one.
No, he didn't. He kind of went right through that when he threw out Vanderbilt. I was like, whoa, hold on a second here, big guy. You're going to beat Florida? They're going to come through that region with all those tough teams. Illinois is in that bracket. But Vanderbilt's had a very good year, and I guess he's buying Byington. All right, so Connecticut, 29-5, great year. The 2 losses to St. John's really are the defining moment of their season.
Yeah.
They've been almost untouchable up to that point. They got whopped by St. John's in the Big East Final by 20, and also got pretty handled by them the last time they saw. But I actually have Connecticut going further in the tournament than St. John's. I think St. John's got hosed with their 5 seed. I really do. And we'll talk about that right now. Michigan State 25-7. We have them in the 9 spot. And, they're in the 12 by Torvik, but they were a 3 seed. They were a 3 seed, so that's pretty much where we had them.
Yep.
St. John's 28-6. They're 15th. Bart Torvik, 15th. They were given a 5 seed.
Yeah,
so if you're a 5 seed, that means you're in the 20, 21, 20. That's no way. No way. Are they in that range? No way. I have them at 10. They won the Big East regular season. They won the Big East tournament. This is where you're seeing some of these weapons of mass destruction really start to favor basically the Power Four, and then those ancillary ones. The Big East is kind of sitting on the outside of that. ACC's not getting as much respect as ever before, but the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12 are really running the day right now. And that's where I think they came up with that 5 seed. I thought that was a terrible, terrible job by the committee. Illinois, we have them at 11, 24-8. They're 6 by Bart Torvik. I don't know how. And they were given a 3 seed by the committee. So they have them pretty much in the range that we do, but 6, way too high for me on that Illinois team. Purdue, 27-8. They're 8 on Torvik, and they're a 2 seed. That was a little surprising. They wound up 12 with us, and they're, in the seeding, they're considered to be, a 5, 6, 7, or 8 team. So I got them outside of there. Torvik has them a little bit outside of there, but pretty much they're in agreement, and we're on the outside of it. 13, Iowa State. They took some lumps at the end, 29-7. 7 overall for Torvik, and they're a 2 seed. 2 seed at 13. Vanderbilt, here's the team Adam Nelson was talking about, 26-8. They're 10 on Torvik. They're a 5 seed overall. They're on that line with St. John's of 5 seeds, and that's going to be quite the endeavor for them to come out of there and win that thing. I'm going to go to my bracket in a second and just see who they're looking at, but Vanderbilt, I'm looking at them. They would have to play Nebraska. Very tough game for them. They would have to play Florida. Very tough game for them. They might have to match up with Houston or Illinois. I just see those being tough games. I give Adam a lot of credit for his courage, but I don't know about that. Arkansas, this is so I got them 15, but I got them going to the Final Four. 26-8, 19 overall on Bart Torvik, but they're a 4 seed. So a little bit of conflict there. Nebraska, 26-6, 20 on Torvik, and they're 4 seed overall. This team ain't bad. This team isn't bad. The only thing is they don't have any tournament experience right now. They haven't been to the tournament in a really, really long time. Alabama, 23-9. This team could surprise. So you got 18 overall, and they're a 4 seed with Torvik. They're 18 with Torvik, and they're a 4 seed in the NCAA. NCAA likes them a little bit better than me and Torvik do. North Carolina, 18. This is a team I have losing to VCU in the first game. 24-8. They have them at 27 at Torvik, which is way down there, but then they caught a 6 seed, which puts you somewhere in the range, south of where we have them right now. Kansas, 23-10. They drew a 22 out of Torvik and got a 4 seed. That's the respect that they get. I don't think they belong being a 4 seed. All right, Texas Tech, 22-10. 13-5. They're 13 overall in Bart Torvik, which is pretty high. They caught a 5 seed, which I think was a little bit better. All right, now you got Wisconsin, 21-10. They're 21-5 over there. They were 21 overall, and they're a 5 seed as well. Watch out for Blackwell. That kid can play. They got a really good team. They could surprise. I know somebody who took them to win it all. I don't see that. Miami, Florida, 22. All right, they're 25-8, 35th in Torvik. 35th. I don't see it. I mean, I get the strength of schedule. They're in the ACC. They played everybody Louisville played. They played everybody Duke played. Everybody North Carolina played. Everybody Virginia played. I don't get it. All right, but I got them. 25-8, they're 35, but the NCAA put them on a 7 line, which puts you somewhere between 28 and 32. So I got them way higher than that, and then they're somewhere in the range where they were with Torvik, and that's where you see these weapons of mass destruction just kind of laying this thing out. I got Utah State, 28-6. They're in the 28 range with Torvik. They're a 9 seed. 9 seed, which puts them, 36 through 39, 36, 37, 38, 39 range. I think they're better than that. I go St. Mary's here, 27-5, great team, tough bracket, 24th overall. They were a 7 seed overall. Now, Pete, I got down here at the bottom. I got 25 and 26, but it's really 25A and 25B. Okay. And this is the way I laid it out, and I'm going to have to take a big mea culpa here because I had Miami of Ohio 31-1 on that line of being 25. But I wanted to see what happened in the SMU game last night before I gave them the spot. They beat SMU last night. They're 32-1. We got to put them on the top 25 list right now. We're kicking Villanova off until next week when they can revamp. They're 24-8. They're 36, and they were an 8 seed. All right, here's your tournament. Here's how it breaks out for you. The 1 seed plays the 16. The 2 plays the 15. The 3 plays the 14. The 4 plays the 13. The 5 plays the 12. The 6 plays the 11. 7 plays 10. 8 plays 9. The Farmer in the Dell. Everybody goes around and round. No 5 seed has ever won the tournament.
Really?
Shout out to St. That's what I heard the other day. I don't know how true that is, but shout out. Shout out. Pete, you got anything for me on the go right now?
Not really. I mean, I'm just waiting to see what happens.
Are there any games on right now?
I can't. Nothing I can display.
Okay.
Because the NCAA changed their browser to set up and won't allow me to capture the video anymore.
Oh, those scoundrels.
Their tech got up higher.
They're looking to get paid.
Yeah, right.
They're looking to get paid. All right, let's go to some carousel then. All right, carousel action. You got Air Force up there, Joe Scott. They just hired Joe Crispin, who was the assistant coach at Penn State. Now, I'm not knocking Joe Crispin.
Here's your carousel opening.
I love
graphic.
it. We got an updated carousel there. With Syracuse is up there now. You're going to have Providence up there now. Georgia Tech is up there now. There's a lot of really good jobs up there. We had a really, really fluid discussion with Adam Nelson about that. The Air Force job to me is a grade F. The only military institution, there's 2 of them that I might consider coaching at. You got Citadel, you got Air Force, you got all these places. Navy would be a place that I might consider. I think they lost in the NIT last night, but a really, really good job for them to get into the NIT. And I would look at Army as well because I love the Hudson River and it flows right through there, and it's a beautiful place, beautiful campus. But those jobs, any of those military jobs, are absolutely hard. Who wants to get up and march at 6 o'clock in the morning when somebody else has an NIL bag for you? Who wants to get up and do their drill work at 5 o'clock in the morning and then go to practice every day? Now, some of the institutions are different than others. I don't know about Air Force, but I'm giving that job an F because it's an F job. All right? Air Force F. AF, it's an F. Just take out the A because it's just an F.
You don't want to live in Colorado Springs?
I think that's great. And they got so many resources. They have the entire apparatus of the government that you can access into your basketball program. You need extra guys, to go on a road trip with you and do data breakdown? Sure, we got a bunch of guys sitting around here that are computer geeks. You need a car? Yeah, there's 1,000 cars in that lot over there. Just here's the keys, go grab one of them. You want to get on a plane? Sure, we got a plane. Here comes one. We'll pull it right up for you. We're the Air Force. We got a plane for you. So they do have all of that other stuff that's really, really good. But you got to recruit. You got to convince guys that you're going to do time afterwards. You got service time that comes afterward. In the Navy, you got sea time. You got all this other stuff that goes into it. It's just a hard, hard gig. Annapolis is beautiful. The Hudson Valley is gorgeous. I'm sure out in Colorado Springs, it's lit up out there. But it's hard to recruit basketball players, have them go through all of the military protocols that they have to go through on a daily basis, and also compete in a sport. Now, some of them take their athletes, their football players especially, way, way down as far as what their daily requirement is, as far as marching, as far as drill, as far as all of that stuff goes on the regular for all of these other guys. But you still got to be in uniform every day. If you're a plebe, which is a freshman, you still got to make corner turns every single place you go. There's an added discipline to it that's not there at some of these other schools, and it's not that easy to talk young men into that right now. Let's keep rolling. Arizona State, Bobby Hurley. I'm kind of in agreement with Adam on this one. It's an A-. It's not an A because of the league that they play in is brutal, but it's a good job because it's warm and you'll get a bag out there and you'll be able to move and groove. I think it's okay. Ball State, Mike Lewis fired. Haven't gotten a new coach yet. That's one of those MAC jobs, pretty good tradition, but I can't give it any more than a C- right now. Boston College, Earl Gates, I'm going to give that a B. I'm going to give that a B. A lot of people down on that job, but I am not. I'm high on that job.
Is that a reputation?
It's based upon A, the reputation of the school academically.
Yep.
I think that's going to come back around and matter a little bit. Also, B, they've been down for so long. There's always got to be an up. They've been down so long, they got to bounce up. You get the right coach in there, like a Patino or one of those guys who's a bona fide coach, they'll be top 25. If they keep moving with the hiring process that they've been doing over the course of time, they're going to stay mired in mediocrity. All right? But I'm going to give that job a B. Cal State Bakersfield, this is where the guy had his assistant coach out operating as a pimp. I think if you can get that done as a Division I basketball program, that's not a bad job. Cal State Bakersfield, you're in California. I'm going to give it a C, though, because of the stigma around the pimping. Dartmouth, Ivy League, terrible job. Not a good job. They still think you got to have 1,600 to get in there, and they want you to be, the most erudite citizen that you could possibly be as far as going to the soup kitchens and all of that other stuff. They just have unrealistic expectations for most of their recruits.
And you know what?
And hence,
there's no bag.
And there's no bag. If those guys ever load up and go bag, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Because they'll get the bag. But right now, no bag. You're 100% right, Pete. Actually, the Ivies are getting poached. The Ivies are getting poached right now because no bag. Eastern Michigan, Stan Heath, he's been around a little bit. I just don't see that as a good job. I give it a C-. FIU, Jeremy Ballard, it's a commuter school. They've got some issues down there, but you're in Miami. Big school. 30,000 students. It's not terrible. It's not the worst in the world, but I can't give it more than a C+ because they got a tough league. Georgia Tech, any job in the ACC, to me, almost every single job has to be a B or better. You're in the ACC.
Yeah, right.
You're in Atlanta. You got great history, tradition, Bobby Cremins, Kenny Anderson, triple threat. You got everything there. I think that's an A- job ready to go. They just keep hiring the wrong people. You cannot hire a guy who has never coached a day in his life and put him at the highest level of college basketball. It's not going to work. Put them in the mid-majors, put them in the lower. If they do well, then move them up. But you can't just bounce a guy all the way up to the top of the flagpole with the restraints and constraints on these jobs and think it's going to be successful. Kansas City, nobody cares. Kansas State, that's a B+ job because they got a bag. Tough league. Kansas ain't the greatest place in the world, but Kansas is good. You got to compete with them for that in-state vibration. But I think Kansas State ain't a bad job because they got a bag. They're going to have a bag for you. Lamar, Alvin Brooks, they're up and down. Let's give it a C. Arkansas, Little Rock, let's give it a D. Louisiana Monroe, let's give it a D. Northern Illinois, Rashawn Berno, D-. Oregon State, Wayne Tinkle, I'd give that a B, a strong B. Syracuse is an A job. I got news for you. You got the Carrier Dome. You've got all that other stuff. Providence is a B+ A- job right now. Had some of these other jobs come open that I was anticipating coming open, possibly Notre Dame, Oklahoma, some of these other places where Pittsburgh, where we alluded with Adam that the buyout was just too big. That's what saved the guy, was that they didn't have the money. They ran out of dough. So that's where that was at. We thought this would be a whole lot more different than it was. And if it was, then the Providence and some of those other jobs aren't the marquee jobs that they are right now. Pete, we did it. Got them off. Next week, folks, we're going to have that first round of the tournament to climb you through on your bracket. We hope your bracket stays as good as ours and healthy right now because nobody's lost. Right now, you're going to go into it. Today's going to be that day. Today and tomorrow. Folks, we'll catch you next week in the zone, baby.